This is the 49ers Web Zone No Huddle podcast. We're part of the Odyssey Network. I'm Al. He's Brian. It's cut down day. Niners get to a 53-man roster. Lot to unpack there. Before we get to that, though, Brian, let's just jump right into all the football here. Trent Williams, a report comes out from Josina Anderson this morning. And Josina is one of those people who's really tied in. So she's one of the people who, when she says something, I'm like, all right, this is good information. And she tweeted today just some conversations she's been having with people that Trent Williams wants to be paid, like the very important piece that he is. She goes on to say, San Francisco, this is what she was told, San Francisco is between a real rock and a hard place because Trent is not playing around. Something may have to give unless you're allowing for big adjustments next season. So here is my question to this, Brian. Here's the first thing that I thought when I heard this. Trent Williams is 36 years old.
Yeah.
He has no guaranteed money left on his contract. Were there organizational discussions about his contract and his future? And if so, what was the plan? If I'm in that press conference on Wednesday, which I'm not, and this is still not resolved, that's the first thing I'm asking John Lynch. What were the conversations that you had as an organization about Trent Williams, knowing how he is, knowing that he wants his money, he has in the past, and he is the best tackle in the league, so God bless him. Knowing that he's like that, knowing that his contract was what it was, and knowing that he's 36 years old, you haven't addressed tackle at all. You only have 2 on your 53-man roster right now because Williams is not there because he didn't show up. What's the plan? Do you know the plan? Because I don't know the
plan. I don't know the plan, but I would have to assume that the plan is for them to figure it out because this team is going absolutely nowhere if Trent Williams is not on the field in 2024. I think you tweeted out some numbers. I know I was on.
I did.
I was on with Ryan Hensley this morning. I'm doing a Tuesday morning standing appearance with Ryan this season. I'm excited about, but one of the things he brought up is in 2023 when Trent Williams was on the field, Brock Purdy threw 28 touchdowns and had 2 interceptions. When Trent Williams was not on the field or not playing at 100%, Brock Purdy had 3 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. We look at what this offense looked like, and a lot of times people are conflating what this offense looked like without Debo, right? Because Trent Williams and Debo missed at the same time last year. And I would like to point to the fact that I think it's Trent Williams and his absence when the offense absolutely just hit a wall and couldn't do anything against a Cleveland Browns defense that's really good. I mean, it was a really good defense. I'm not taking that away. The Minnesota Vikings, though, not a really good defense, and they absolutely made the 49ers offense look terrible. And again, it's because Trent Williams was not on the field. This, like I said, this offense is going nowhere if Trent Williams is not on the field. And I have to wonder if you look at Trent Williams' contract, like you said, there is no guaranteed money left on his deal, I believe, after this season specifically. But you look at the way they structured this deal. His cap hit in 2021 was $8.1 million, 9.6 in 2022, 12.6 in 2023, and 10.7 in 2024. And then in 2025, it's 34.1 and 37.8. It's the way that they structure these deals. They structure them. It feels to me that they structure them in such a way that they can then convert those last year or two, right, if they want to, into more guaranteed money, right? Put some dummy years on, whatever.
Yeah.
I would assume that's what they're looking at doing, but I have to wonder if that's what Brandon Ayuk is balking at right now in his contract negotiations. Are the 49ers guaranteeing him, the money that he wants, the APY that he wants, but when you actually look at the contract, it's really a 2-year deal or a 3-year deal. And a lot of that money that gets him to $30 million a year is not guaranteed. And it's just really kind of a dummy, a dummy contract, if you will. If I'm Brandon Ayuk, I don't know that I'm that upset about that, because if it's like a 3-year deal, then you get to hit the market again and get another bag if you play well enough. But if you're Trent Williams and you're 36 years old, that doesn't cut it for me. I need guarantees, because at any point my career could be over. And so
Well,
I think
same
that's
for
where they're at with Trent, and why has this not been done already?
and on the Niners side too. Again, I would hope this would have been addressed already. What are your plans? You're 36. Do you want to play until you're 39? Because you're talking about retiring maybe a couple of years ago.
Right.
So do you have another 2 years left? Do you want to rip this up and we'll do a 2-year guaranteed deal? What do you want?
Yeah.
And you mentioned the numbers in the 2 games that Trent Williams missed last year. They only scored 17 points in each of the games. I had Brock with 4 interceptions total and 1 lost fumble, so 5 total turnovers in those 2 games. And McCaffrey had 99 yards on 27 total carries in those 2 games. So it had a ripple effect throughout the entire offense.
It was brutal.
6 of Purdy's 13 total turnovers came in that 3-game stretch where Williams was hurt or out. So he clearly had a ripple effect on the entire offense. Yeah, Debo wasn't there too. I understand that, but you saw what this offensive line has looked like in the preseason with that. It's been ugly without him there. Not that he would play in the preseason anyway, but he would be practicing, getting ready. So now, if you don't have this figured out in the next couple of days, I know Trent is Trent. Bosa was Bosa. He started out slow. You're going to be in a situation where even if you get him on the field for week 1, it might be a little bit until he turns into himself. And you got a real tough Jets team in week 1 with a really good defense. So that's all of a sudden a pretty scary game. This needs to get done. They have to figure this out. It's less than 2 weeks now. There's just been too much back and forth with him and Ayuk. If there's not urgency now, when is there urgency? When? I don't understand the mindset of it all. So I'm frustrated. I know the fan base is frustrated. I just want to know, and I hope someone asks John Lynch, what was your mindset? What were the discussions? Ayuk aside, okay, you're throwing numbers at him and you're like, we don't know what this guy's problem is. That's essentially the way it's come across. He keeps saying, I wish I knew. I wish I knew why he's not taking our offers. Fine, if that's the case. What was the plan with Trent Williams? Explain that to us, please. And I really hope someone will have the balls to ask him that.
Well, and to me, there has to be something, because you don't go into this draft and just completely
ignore
drafting a tackle.
Ignore
if
it.
You think that you might be without Trent Williams, right? Like, I am sick to my stomach every time I see Kingsley Suamataia absolutely dominating on that Chiefs offensive line, because I'm like, not only could they have taken him at 31, they could have taken him in the 2nd round, and they took Renardo Green instead. And then in the 3rd round, they could have traded up for Roger Rosengarten, who is also doing really, really well as the right tackle for the Baltimore Ravens. And they stayed pat, let the Ravens jump them. They got Rosengarten. And now, granted, Pooney looks great. I'm not saying that he doesn't.
Sure.
But regardless of whether you've had these conversations with Trent already, and he has kind of given you I'm going to play this season, and I want to play for 2 more, whatever, he's still 36 years old. How have you not addressed the tackle position in the draft over the last 2 drafts? How have you not done that outside of Jarrett Kingston, who, when drafted, was likely drafted as an interior offensive lineman, not a tackle? And granted, Pooney, same thing, played tackle at Kansas, but every scout, everything that said was an interior offensive lineman. I just don't understand what their thought process is, regardless of whether or not they knew that they were going to rip up these last 2 years, guarantee some stuff, and get Trent in here. He's 36 years old. He's 36. You've got to have a plan, a succession plan, and they don't seem to have it. And now you get to a 53-man cut down, and part of your initial 53-man roster, you have 2 tackles, because Trent Williams is not a part of the 53-man because he's got his own reserve did not report status. That means that he's not counting against the 53-man. So you could have kept a Chris Hubbard, but you cut him anyway. You have 2 tackles. Literally, that's it. You've got Jalen Moore and Colton McKivitz, and you've got no one else. You've got a bunch of guys that might be able to play tackle, right? And that's that whole concept of we draft offensive linemen who can play all 5 positions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fine, but none of them are playing tackle. So what are we doing? Like, this entire cut down is just it's a weird 53-man roster, initial 53. Now, granted, I understand the word initial is important here, right? And Kyle Shanahan
100%.
will tell you, nobody's initial 53-man roster is really anybody's week 1 53-man roster, if we're being perfectly honest. But at the very least, he says it's nobody's, week 17 53-man roster. But regardless, there is so much that is still up in the air. And we are less than 2 weeks away now from playing an actual football game in week 1 against the New York Jets. And this team doesn't seem to have anything figured out. And it's maddening. It's maddening.
Yeah, let's look at this 53, Brian, because were some surprises on here to me. And honestly, I'm catching up on it. I feel like it's been a whirlwind. I'm still trying to catch up on all this, but let's break it down. Let's just go position by position and talk about what we think here. So we'll start with quarterbacks, which is not a surprise. The only sort of mystery there was Tanner Mordecai going to do enough to maybe push one of Dobbs or Allen out, and he clearly didn't. He looks like a practice squad guy that he can come back as. As far as Dobbs and Allen, Dobbs is fun to watch. I like watching him run around in the preseason. Brandon Allen is Brandon Allen. He seems like he's a very good guy to have in the QB room. The Bengals liked having him around Burrow. The Niners like having him around Purdy. If either one of those guys got to play, the Niners are in a lot of trouble.
Sure.
For an extended period of time anyway.
Yeah.
So this is Brock Purdy's team. Brock Purdy's the franchise QB. You got a couple backups on a 1-year deal. It's good not to have any QB drama, really. It's just like they're there, and God forbid if anything happens to Brock. But this is Brock's year, man. This is Brock's year to really solidify his hold that he's the franchise QB and prove that he's worth that huge contract he's going to get. I'm looking forward to watching him right from the get-go lead this team and hopefully get better.
For sure. I mean, to be fair, they did not name Brock Purdy the starter. So, I mean, based on how things went,
who knows? Who knows what's going to happen?
But I will say this, and I wanted to bring this up. I texted you earlier this morning. Actually, I texted you last night, knowing that you're on East Coast time. I knew that you wouldn't get it till this morning, but I couldn't. We did our own kind of quarterback ranking, quarterback tiers or whatever, trying to figure, and I couldn't remember where we had Brock Purdy. And the reason that I asked that question is because, one of Mike Sando, who we've had on this show before, puts out his quarterback tiers each season before the season starts. And they came out yesterday, and Brock Purdy is in tier 2, right? He is, according to Mike Sando and his quarterback tiers, he is the 12th ranked quarterback on Mike Sando's tiers, which is a 13 spot climb for Brock Purdy and a 2-tier climb for Brock Purdy after last season. And then Dan Orlovsky was on, I believe he was on a radio show, maybe a podcast. And he said that there are 9 elite quarterbacks in the NFL in 2024.
I did see that.
And Brock Purdy he included Brock Purdy as one of those 9. And it really just feels like, you and I went through and I'm pretty sure we had Brock at about 12, maybe 13.
I think I had him at 9. I thought I had him at 9.
Or possibly 9. I think we said like it was like, and where they were, right? We could kind of shift that. But what I loved about Sando was that Purdy was 1 spot above Kirk Cousins. Hey. And then 2 spots ahead of now I'm drawing a blank. But regardless, like you said, this is a big season for Brock Purdy, right? Last season, he announced himself even more than he did, in the feel-good story of last pick of the draft, starts the last 6 games for the 49ers, leads them to the NFC Championship game, gets injured, right? Great story. All of that was a great story. Last year, he established himself as a legitimate, viable starting quarterback in the NFL. And now, this season, he needs to reiterate that in order for the 49ers to be comfortable to just break him off, because that's really where we're headed. So kudos to Brock. I just also like to see him start to get the recognition nationally that I think we as 49ers fans have said, like, look, this guy's good. Like, I know that it's hard to overlook his draft status, his stature, right? He's not a big guy, whatever. The guy is good. The guy wins football games. And he's not the best quarterback, but he is definitely an upper echelon quarterback. And it certainly seems like he's getting his rightful due kind of nationally now as well. Awesome to see.
Running backs, Christian McCaffrey, Jordan Mason, Patrick Taylor Jr., Isaac Guerendo. The news here is Elijah Mitchell is apparently out for the season with an undisclosed injury, which essentially is ending his 49ers career. There's no way he comes back. He cannot stay on the field. He's a very good player when he has been on the field. But unfortunately, some players deal with this, and it sucks to see it because he is a good player, but feels like his time with the 49ers is done. Love Mason as the backup. People have been screaming for it. You're going to get it. You're going to get it this year. Patrick Taylor was a surprise to me. I totally had him as a camp body, so he makes the team here. And Isaac Guerendo, who probably will be the kick returner, I would think, as well.
I would assume
we'll see. We'll see what he gets in terms of running back snaps. But, McCaffrey, obviously, again, it's such a huge drop-off if he's not in there. But Jordan Mason's a guy to me I'm really excited to watch. I'm really excited to see him get some extended action. And fans love him. Looks like he's taken a big step forward this year in terms of his maturity, what the coaches have said. And he's an exciting guy to me. So this is a good group.
Yeah, this is a pro Jordan Mason podcast for sure. Love that he's getting his opportunity. I think Patrick Taylor Jr., still is kind of a camp body. I think on game days, you're going to see McCaffrey, Mason, and Guerendo up, right? And I don't think Taylor Taylor likely won't suit up. But he is a vet. Honestly, it seems like it came down to him and Matt Breida, basically, if they were planning to put Elijah Mitchell on IR. And I think Taylor just offers a little bit more in the passing game than Breida does. And so, he gets the nod, but yeah, a good group. Obviously, it's very similar to the offensive line. When you have the best player at the position group is always going to be good because you've got the best guy to play that position. So, I expect big things out of Christian McCaffrey again, but I do hope that Mason does get some run, and also that Kyle Shanahan starts to save Christian McCaffrey from himself.
Fullback is Kyle Juszczyk. Moving on. Tight end.
This is wild.
Was shocking. Tight end was really shocking. They're keeping two of them, Brian. Who are they and what's going on here?
One guy is what is it, like an 8-year veteran out of Iowa by the name of George Kittle.
George something or other.
Yeah, Kittle. Sounds like Skittle. George Kittle. And then a guy who I actually, I put out my 53-man roster prediction yesterday on Twitter. I was actually pretty proud of myself. I did fairly decent. One of the things that I did call, though, was that Jake Tonges, the second-year man out of UC Berkeley, Cal, for those uninitiated, made this squad over former third-round pick Cameron Latu, who was released. And then in that same draft, 7th-round pick Braden Willis, who was also released, but also Eric Saubert, who I thought was arguably, outside of George Kittle, the best tight end on the roster.
I thought he was a lock.
100% thought he was a lock. And so I'm interested to see if there's like a wink, or, whatever the case may be, if he makes it back on the practice squad, or, some of the players that made the initial 53 are going to go on IR. But in order to do that, there's a weird rule. In order to put a player on IR and designate them for return, they have to make the initial 53-man. Although there are 2 exceptions that you can use, where you can put a player on IR designated to return. You can do that twice prior to the 53-man cutdown. They did that with Kalia Davis. So Kalia Davis is starting the season on IR, but designated to return. Did not need to put him on the 53-man in order to do that. They had one more spot, and I don't understand why that spot did not go to John Feliciano so that you could keep a guy like Chris Hubbard. We'll get to O-line in a second. Or a guy like, again, Eric Saubert, who I am just genuinely shocked. Tonges did great this preseason, caught everything that came to him. I don't think he had a single drop. No. And then, executed his blocking assignments. But to me, this team has always kept 4 tight ends. I don't remember a time where they only kept 3. Sometimes they kept 4 tight ends, and you're like, why are you keeping that guy?
Right.
To only have 2 is wild to me. And
It's crazy.
To me, I wonder if that indicates some evolution in the offense. Like, are we going to see more 11 personnel moving forward from Kyle Shanahan than we have in the past? Which would mean that you don't need as many bodies at tight end. But George Kittle gets hurt a lot. To only have one guy behind him is wild. So,
and it's crazy that as great of a pick as George Kittle was, phenomenal, one of the best 5th round picks ever. He might go to the Hall of Fame. It's a great 5th round pick. They haven't been able to do anything since then at the tight end position. They cannot find anyone to kind of be decent or someone that you're excited about. So Latu was a huge bust.
Yeah.
And Braden Willis, watching Braden Willis, when you're trying to watch him block, it's like, ugh.
It's awful. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think this is going to work. So I wasn't super surprised that he got caught. Saubert, I do think he'll be back once somebody goes on IR. Something else happens, and something that could happen is this wide receiver group. Because right now you have 7 of them.
Yeah.
The reason you have 7 of them is because they have no idea what's going on with one of them, Brandon Ayuk.
But he counts on the 53 man because he's under contract.
Yes. So it's Debo Ayuk, Juwan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, Jacob Cowing, Chris Conley, which was pretty much what everybody expected.
I nailed those.
They keep Ronnie Bell.
That's the one I did not anticipate.
For now, unless maybe they sign someone or pick someone up, whatever it is. But to me, Ronnie Bell is the 7th receiver because it's Ayuk insurance in the sense that they want to keep 6.
Right.
And they don't know what the hell's going on with Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah.
Doesn't make me feel any better about Ayuk. With Pearsall and Jennings banged up, it doesn't make me feel any better about this group in week 1. I'm still nervous about what it's going to look like early in the season. I'm a little nervous even if Ayuk comes back. Is he going to be in shape? Is it going to take him a while to hit the ground running? So when the receiver group, you're going to get a lot of Debo this year, at least early. If you play fantasy football, draft Debo Samuel. He's going in about the 3rd round right now. He's a great pick because he's gonna touch the ball a lot, especially if they're down Ayuk and Jennings and Pearsall continue to deal with these injuries.
I think of those 6 or 7, I guess, with Bell. I still don't think Bell is. I don't even know if Bell will be on the roster week 1, depending on.
I don't know if he'll be there tomorrow.
Right, depending on what happens with Ayuk. So, yeah. There are, and that's the other thing is, it certainly seems like this team is planning on being active on the waiver market. One of the guys I think they could look to bring in is the Denver Broncos let go of Tim Patrick, and I think
I saw that.
That would be a huge pickup for the back end of that receivers room. Whether or not he makes it to them, I don't know. I don't know if waiver priority is still the same as it was at the end of the previous season when it comes to post cut down. I don't know those rules, so that I would be interested to see that. But I don't know why Ronnie Bell made this team outside of he's good at blocking on special teams, and I don't know what else.
Until Ayuk gets back, because
I don't know what else.
Conley's starting right at this point.
Yeah,
Conley's going to start.
Yes, Conley is going to be your X.
I don't know.
Conley's going to be your X. Yeah, because Jennings again has a specific role in this offense. You're not just going to throw Juwan Jennings at the X position on the opposite side of Debo Samuel and just call it good.
It'll be Conley until Ayuk gets back.
So Chris Conley is going to be that until Ayuk either steps on the field or whatever happens. But kudos to Chris Conley, though, by the way. Really high expectations coming into the league, kind of flamed out a little bit, and then came back with the 49ers, worked his ass off, and not only made meaningful contributions, he made meaningful contributions in the Super Bowl, which I think is largely, what got him this spot on the roster this season. So kudos to him.
Offensive line, Jalen Moore, starting left tackle Jalen Moore at the moment.
Right.
Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel, Dominic Cooney, Colton McKivitz, Spencer Burford, Nick Sakel, John Feliciano, who's likely going to go on IR then we'll assume maybe Sauber gets re-signed or whatever. Without Trent Williams, this unit looks like absolute shit. Not a very good offensive line. 2 tackles, which kind of tells me, like, is Williams around the corner? It doesn't sound like he's around the corner, but do they think he's around the corner? Because why would you only have 2 tackles here? You cannot, and again, things will change. You cannot go into week 1. Obviously, you're going to need a swing tackle somewhere, unless they feel one of these guys can do it that they already have on the roster. Looking at a name that could possibly do it, I don't think so. So
I mean, Zakel was a tackle in college, so was Burford. But Zakel is your Zakel's your backup center. Zakel's your backup center.
They got to get this done with Trent. I mean, again, if you're looking at it just based on the names, there's only 2 people here. They got to think Trent's on his way. But based on the report you hear today, his heels are dug in. So unless there's things happening behind the scenes people don't know about, and again, Josina Anderson's not somebody who just throws shit out there. She knows what she's talking about. She's accurate. She has contacts in the league. So for her to say that, this offensive line scares me. And again, the Jets are a really good defense. I don't care if Hassan Reddick is there or not. They're still a really good defense.
Yeah.
You saw what happened. Purdy was running for his life a lot of the preseason.
Yep.
That scares me. If you're a 49ers fan, you have to be a little bit worried about this offensive line. Dominic Pooney, we're excited about him. 100%. Absolutely. Everything else, you have to be concerned right now.
Yeah. And, again, I don't understand why you don't have that Feliciano, why you don't use that IR designation for Feliciano, knowing that he had knee surgery. He's not going to be ready. Why not use that and keep Chris Hubbard, right? As your third, well, actually as your swing tackle, because right now, again, Trent isn't there. So Moore's left tackle, McKivitz is right tackle, Hubbard is your swing tackle. So either they were very underwhelmed by Chris Hubbard and just feel like they could pick somebody up that would fit better. I don't know. But Feliciano will go on the IR tomorrow and they will have a spot, to fill there. But it's got to be an offensive lineman. It can't be Saubert because they need another tackle. They can't go into the season with 2 tackles. Like, again, it's just a really weird initial 53 man. Even a little bit on the defensive side, which we can get to after this.
Defensive line: Nick Bosa, Javon Hargrave, Malik Collins, Leonard Floyd, Yetur Gross-Matos, Kevin Givens, Jordan Elliott, Robert Beal Jr., and Sam. You got to help me with his last name.
Are you ready?
I looked it up.
I looked it up before we started recording so that I could get it right. But
I'm not even sure I knew he was on the team.
I did not either. So there's my biggest surprise. But it's Sam Okawanu is how you pronounce that. No idea who he is.
He was there.
Yeah. I mean,
he's been there.
Yeah. I mean, he was there. That one is the biggest surprise to me, especially again, not knowing really who he is because he hasn't really established himself. When they also had Jonathan Garvin, who I was actually, if they were going to keep another edge, I had them keeping 8 on the defensive line. Or no, I had them keeping 9. Maybe there's another. What I had was Evan Anderson. I thought Evan Anderson would make the squad again with what this team needs when it comes to run defense. I thought that Anderson would win a spot in that interior group. But
the edge group is just so thin.
Yeah, so right now it's 5 defensive ends and 4 interior defensive linemen. I think part of that is because Yetur Gross-Matos is the the inside outside versatility, and so you kind of keep him. You kill 2 birds with 1 stone there. But I also have to assume that again there is going to be somebody's cut is going to end up on this squad, and probably take Okawanu's place. But we'll see.
Yeah, Bosa's Bosa. Hargrave, everybody says he's in great shape. He looks great. He needs a comeback year to me, and this defensive line needs him to have a comeback year. Malik Collins, we like. He's not a run guy. Leonard Floyd, getting older, good player.
I hear Malik Collins isn't a run guy, but I also saw him single-handedly throw a grown-ass man to the ground in a double team and stuff a run. Now, granted, preseason,
yeah,
but
backups.
he
It's
looks he looks really good. I'm really excited about Collins. I think he's going to be a good fit. I mean, we'll obviously see, but
I agree. Good player. He's a good player.
Yeah, he's not. You're right. His signature is not run stuffer. His signature is pass rusher from the interior. But I think he looks like he can hold his own. So it'll be interesting to see.
Well, we're gonna find out. Gross Matos is a question mark for me until I see it. Jordan Elliott again. I've heard mixed things. Chris Kasurk loves him. We'll see. There's just not a lot here like we're usually seeing with the Niners defensive line where it comes in waves. And we're going to find out if this group is good enough and if the moves that they made this offseason are going to work. It's when I'm looking at it down on paper, I'm thinking to myself, that's a little thin.
Again,
anyway,
this is another group where I anticipate maybe 1 or 2 signings where some of these guys
I can see that
are waived. Yeah,
I can see that for sure. Yeah. Linebacker right now, you have Fred Warner, Devondre Campbell, Demetrius Flanagan Fowles, D. Winters, Tatum Bethune, Curtis Robinson. So 6 of them there. Fred is the main guy. Obviously, the name missing is Dre Greenlaw, who's going to go on IR. When does he come back? What's he going to look like when
he's not back? On IR? He's on PUP. He's on
PUP. Sorry, my fault. Yep, on PUP. Yep. So he's on PUP.
Yep.
When does he come back? What does he look like when he comes back? Can Devondre Campbell kind of even be 75% of Dre Greenlaw? Because we've seen what Dre Greenlaw means to the team in the Super Bowl. We'll see. Again, any group with Fred Warner, like says McCaffrey, when you have the best one in the league, it looks good right away. So and there's some guys we're excited about there. D. Winters, work to do, but we're excited. Bethune, Curtis Robinson, I thought played well in the preseason.
Yeah. I really liked what I saw from Curtis Robinson. And he's a guy that is a converted safety, right? They really like that body type, right? Converted safety where you're playing linebacker at 235, 240 pounds instead of like 255, 260 pounds. Same thing with Fred Warner, right? Fred Warner was a safety until they converted him to that I think they call it a star defender at Utah when he was drafted by the 49ers. But what I realize is, when I look at, because when you put a 53-man roster together, you're really looking at like position groups and how many in each position group. And so it seems like they kept 2 tight ends in order to keep an extra receiver and an extra linebacker because in seasons past, they've kept 6 linebackers. So that's not a surprise. But typically in seasons past, they keep 6 linebackers and 5 cornerbacks. This year, and we'll get to them in a second, they kept 6 cornerbacks as well. And so that's where those 2 extra tight ends, I thought they'd have 4. You take those away, you add an extra wide receiver and an extra linebacker. DFF makes this squad simply because he's a demon on special teams. He's not a great linebacker, but again, they've got 3 young guys there in Robinson, Bethune, and Winters that can develop. And you need them to develop because this will be the last season with Dre Greenlaw, who will have to miss at least the first 4 games because he's starting the season on PUP. But I would imagine I would imagine the second half of the season is when we see Dre Greenlaw, just again to make sure that he's not coming back too soon and just getting re-injured. So I mean, we'll see how Campbell does. Kind of old, kind of slow. He may get supplanted by one of the younger guys, but it's a younger group, but led by the best middle linebacker in the NFL in Fred Warner, which makes it one of the better linebacking groups in the NFL. And it is the best when Greenlaw comes back.
And God forbid if anything again happens to Fred, it looks scary after that. So this is where the Niners are. They're a very top heavy team, which I keep saying is fine if you have 11 or 12 studs out of your 22 starters. That's a really good thing to be, really good place to be. But the depth isn't there like it used to be in some of these drafts where we're seeing these 3rd round picks get cut. Your Danny Grays, your Latus, these guys. Sam Womack wasn't a 3rd round pick, but just a lot of these guys were getting cut. They drafted recently. This is what happens. Your depth isn't there. Yeah, but where they do have depth,
that 2023 draft is brutal.
Looks brutal. And 22, other than Purdy too, the 22 draft is atrocious.
Also true. What
were the first 3 picks? It was Drake Jackson, TDP, and Danny Gray. I mean, it's atrocious.
Yep.
Not hitting. I know Jake Jackson's hurt, but he wasn't anyone they were excited about. That's another
Mhm.
reason why your defensive line is so thin. These misses, you got to pay Javon Hargrave because you missed on Javon Kinlaw. The Niners have made some mistakes here, and it's starting to come, starting to come home to roost a little bit.
Yep.
Not at the cornerback position though.
No,
I love this
deepest
group. It's deep.
deepest it's been.
Trivarius Ward, Denominator Lenore, Isaac Yadam, Renardo Green, Darrell Luter Jr., and Ambry Thomas for now.
Yeah.
Could see Rocky Singh come back on this group. But either way, those top 4 corners, really good. You're going to have Lenore and Ward, and then Lenore will kick inside in nickel situations. Assume Yadam's going to go on the outside. That's what I assume is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
See, unless Green can push his way in there, but we'll see. Looks like a really good group. I think it's the strength of the defense right now, which is crazy because you're used to the defensive line and the front 7 being the strength here. But this is where the Niners, this is where they're going to make their money on defense. They have these guys here. They're playmakers. They're good cover guys. Lenore is super versatile. It's a great group. I'm excited about the corner group.
Ambry Thomas is another weird one to me. Like, why did Ambry Thomas make this squad? Like, what? It just doesn't make any sense to me. You are exposing yourself to Yasin getting picked up by somebody, unless again, maybe there's a wink there and it's like, look, we got to get Ambry on and then we're going to put him on IR and then we'll bring you back. Maybe that's what it is, but I just don't understand why Ambry Thomas is still on this team. I feel like that experiment is over. And the same with who was the other one that I was like, I don't get it.
On defense?
No, I thought it was on defense. I could be wrong. No, the other one was Ronnie Bell. I was like, why are these two? I was like, how did Jim Harbaugh pull this off? Like, how did he get the 49ers, convince the 49ers to keep those 2 Michigan guys when they haven't really done anything to show for it? But no, this is hands down the deepest the cornerback room has been in the entirety of this regime. And I would argue that it might be the deepest it's been, since peak Harbaugh days when you had Terrell Brown and Carlos Rogers and I can't remember who the other one was, but yeah,
Just Culliver. Is that what you're thinking?
It's Culliver, but there was another one. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. And maybe it was Culliver that I was thinking of, but regardless, it's young. That's the other thing. There's not a lot of like, well, that guy's on the tail end of his career, his falling off physically. Like, as much as I love Richard Sherman, he was at the end of his career. And while he played admirably, especially in 2019, towards the end of the season, you could see his age started to show. And then in the Super Bowl, obviously. But again, no shade to one of the best to ever do it. But again, Trivarius Ward in his late 20s, and then everyone else is in their mid to early 20s outside of Rocky Sin, who again may find his way back. But yeah, enjoy Trivarius Ward and Diamador Lenore together on the back end. This will be the last season of that. They will choose one of those guys to sign to a long-term extension, likely Lenore because he's younger. But I'm excited to see this secondary. It is definitely the strength of the defense now.
Safeties: Jair Brown, George Odom, Malik Mustafa, Hufanga, who again is going to miss the beginning part of the season.
No, he's not. They activated him off of PUP.
Oh, he is off PUP? Are you sure?
Yeah, they activated him off PUP and put him on the 53-man.
Oh shit. Okay, so I missed that. That is my
fault. He could have stayed on the PUP, just like Greenlaw. Then he would have missed the first 4 games.
That is my fault, people.
Yeah, they activated him off PUP. That was another surprising move to me. Just because, again, why not give him an extra, it would be 6 weeks at this point. But yeah, no, they activated him off PUP and he's on the active 53-man.
So that's good. And I'm an idiot, but that's fine because this safety group, again, I love Mustafa, like his upside. Odom, if Hufanga is not ready to go or needs to be spelled or whatever, I think can do that. And Jair Brown, definitely arrow pointed up there. So that's a good group, the whole secondary. Excited about special teams. Jake Moody, we'll see. A little all over the place, but he's going to be there. Mitch Wishnowski and Tabor Pepper. So overall, What do I think of the Niners this year? Top heavy.
Mhm.
And if they don't get some of these guys back on the field at 100%, I'm definitely worried a little bit. Not that I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I do think they're going to make the playoffs, but there's very much a notion that the Niners are just winning the West. They probably will still win the West. They can probably get to 11 wins just based on all the talent that they have if those guys stay healthy.
If they stay healthy, yeah.
Big picture, I am nervous for all the reasons that I said before in terms of regression, in terms of that they played 60 games the last 3 years. When you look at Greenlaw, what's he gonna look like? What's Hufanga gonna look like? Those are two big guys. Is this defensive line gonna have the depth there? Are the receivers with or without Ayuk? A lot of youth there, right? You have Debo. Jennings has been banged up. Getting Brandon back is huge. If they don't, it's a totally different outlook on things. And the offensive line as well. They can get through the season. Kyle could scheme around it. Even without Trent, I think they'll get by. But obviously, you need Trent to be a real contender.
Yeah.
And again, when you get to late in January, is that offensive line going to get exposed? Right now, I'm a little worried that it is. So just being honest, I think good team, playoff team, Super Bowl team. I don't know.
To be determined.
I don't know.
Well, and here's the issue, right? As a team, like you said, that has played 60 games over the past 3 seasons, I think one of the most important things for this team, if they want to win the Super Bowl, I think it's very important for them to be the team that gets the bye, right? They need that extra week and also to play at home.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the problem. The Lions are just as good, if not better, than last year. The Packers are probably going to be better than they were last year. The Eagles got 2 new coordinators, probably going to be better than they were last year, unless Nick Sirianni is as bad at his job as I think that he is, which I mean, I'm fine with that as well. The Bears are going to be sneaky good. The Rams are going to run the ball down your throat. No idea what to think of the Seahawks. I'm not really all that worried about them, but obviously Mike McDonald knows how to scheme against Kyle Shanahan. It's not the NFC of last year. Teams are better. And again, you did what you did with Ayuk and Williams all the way up to week 1. You've got a not a difficult schedule at the beginning of the year, but tough enough that if you drop 2 or 3 games, right, because the offense is out of sync, because Ayuk isn't there, or it's taking a while for Ayuk to get back in the swing of things, Trent Williams, whatever, all of a sudden you're in a precarious position when it comes to trying, like I said, to win not only the West, but to get that number 1 seed. And that's where I feel like this offseason was a failure, is that they did not do what they needed to do to set themselves up to be the number 1 seed in the NFL, or not in the NFL, in the NFC. And I think ultimately that is probably going to come back to bite them in the ass when it comes to the playoffs. But we'll see. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just trying to be realistic. I'm just trying to be realistic. Yeah,
they're not a perfect team. No team is a perfect team, but they have real issues right now. And last year, listening to the show last year before the season, I said they are all in. This is the year. This is the team that can go to the Super Bowl. I really felt that way. They did go to the Super Bowl this year. I hope if it happens, I want you to bookmark this show and come back and tell me, Al, you were wrong.
Yeah,
but I do not. I would love to be wrong here. My official prediction: 53-man roster. Here we are right now. They're going to be a playoff team. They are not going back to the Super Bowl. They're too many questions. They're getting older. I don't think they're as good as they need to be in the trenches. Can things change? Can people step up? Sure. Maybe some of these defensive linemen, Chris Kosur gets their hands on them, and you're like, holy shit. It's like Manihue. We didn't expect that. And all of a sudden, this guy's making a huge difference. That can happen. Maybe Pooney just continues to get better, and it helps to solidify that offensive line a little bit more once Trent is back. Maybe McKivitz improves. Maybe Ayuk comes back and Debo's out of his mind because he's kind of playing for a contract. Sure, things can happen. I got a lot of concerns this season. I do. They're going to be good. going to be a good team. It's not going to be like a 7-10 year unless disaster strikes.
Yeah.
Going to win 11 games, going to be in the playoffs, but the NFC is getting better. And as you get in January, not only do I think that ball is going to start bouncing, just a law of averages a different way. I just see holes here. I see holes here in some things that maybe they could have prevented, like you said, the tackle stuff. Why haven't you addressed that? Why do we keep kind of pushing the offensive line to the side? We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Well, and you know, we said it. It's a top-heavy team. It's a roster with a ton of stars at the top. Just talent level wise, health permitting, this team is a 10-11 win team, like you said. Ball bounces the right way, 12-13 win team, right? But there's also a world in which they are an 11 win team or a 12 win team and they win the West, but they don't get the number 1 seed. And there's also a world in which this offense doesn't look like it did last year because Trent Williams is not there or Brandon Ayuk is not there. What we don't know, right? But I mean, you've got some young guys that are exciting, and Pearsall and Cowing, and maybe they can step up in ways that we aren't anticipating or aren't predicting right now. The one thing that I will say though is again, I am most excited about that back end. And I think if that back end can gel the way that we anticipate it doing with Brown, Hufanga, and Mustafa as the safeties, and with Ward and Lenore and Yadam and Luter and probably Rakyasin, that back end may be good enough that it helps the defensive line in ways that we again aren't necessarily anticipating when it comes to getting home and things like that, especially with a guy like Leonard Floyd and Nick Bosa, right? Where all of a sudden this defense is back to a top 5 unit because the secondary is shutting teams down and it is allowing Nick Bosa and Leonard Floyd and the others to eat. So there's a world where that happens as well. All of it is speculation. But when you look at the 53-man roster as it is currently constituted right now on August 27th at 3:51 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, there are lots of questions and there are some holes, and we can't make confident predictions until those questions get answered. The two biggest being, where's Trent and where's Ayuk? And again, like, how is this not done already? It just doesn't. Right. It just doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't feel like a team that is all in and that knows that this is their last best chance with this aging core. It doesn't feel like they operated that way in the slightest, and it's just an interesting. It was just an interesting offseason. We didn't have to talk about quarterbacks, and that was great, but ultimately, we're
still drama.
Yeah, still drama. And this was an offseason where they didn't need drama. They had enough of it. They lost the Super Bowl. That's enough drama in and of itself. To add to this with 2 of your better players, just, again, it just feels like, I don't know. Maybe here's the deal. It was announced today. The Yorks, I assume, are putting in $200 million into Levi Stadium in anticipation for the World Cup and the Super Bowl. And maybe that's where they're like, listen, we just don't have the cash flow to give to Trent Williams and Brandon Ayuk when they want all this guaranteed money. We got to put stuff, I don't think that's actually
we need new Wi-Fi.
Exactly. Oh we need more reliable Wi-Fi.
I think fans are getting a little antsy, so it's going to be interesting. Well, I hope our next show this week is that we're back on and we're talking about that Williams is back or Ayuk is back, but I'm not holding my breath. I'll keep refreshing Twitter. I'll keep trying to find out what I can find out, but right now, just take it day by day. But we'll be back later in the week, and whatever's going on, all the Niner stuff, we're going to talk about it. For Brian, I'm Al.
Later.